Yeah, no, definitely. I would be saying the same thing, but hey guys. Yeah, you're good. We got a five. We just launched, but we're on a 5 minute timer. Um, you're good, man. You guys have grown pretty big though over the last couple of years. Oh yeah. It's a lot, and if you can't maintain it, it's even harder, and it's exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. We moved from because we were doing a lot of stuff for uh, that I was just running myself, and then we got a whole team now, which is awesome. But like we're still trying to figure out how to make the money in this thing because it's not easy. That's for sure. So I did that my first. So I started as a team, and then I went solo for 2 years, and then this last year I found people who wanted to get back into like that were a different group of people from our team, and we've now built an even stronger presence now in a year than I've done for 3. So I feel like I finally found a team that's helping. So, because yeah, and like we got to hand off some work. The co like our pretty much our second in command is like now one of my best friends in real life that I didn't know 2 years ago. Like it's crazy. Yeah, he came up to me. We met through martial arts, and then our kids were going through it, and then him and I joined. He was already there, but Hey everybody, welcome to Tavern Talks. Tonight we have another wonderful guest for the evening. If this is your first time coming to hang out in the tavern, welcome. Myself and Jacob are here every Wednesday, and we always bring a new guest to the tavern. And tonight we have Bleakseason from Folk and Myth, along with all the other crazy things that he is doing. So yeah, we're excited.
Crazy
things.
Thanks. I'm very happy to be here.
Looking forward to it. And we're looking forward to finding out all the cool things that you are working on, including your some of the shows that you've ran, the writing you're doing, and all sorts of other things. I'm sure we'll get into some of that here in a moment. Real quick, if this is your first time, of course, if you don't mind, please hit that follow button. It helps us out a ton. And if you're going to miss some of the show, you can always catch all of it over on YouTube. So you can go hit the subscribe button over there. We have a few sponsors that we shout out every week. And I'm just going to drop those up in the channel. Nope, got to put sponsors. I tell you, I'm a professional here. That's how this works. But yeah, so the way this works is we have three sections of the interview. The interview is going to start with us just kind of having a conversation with Bleak and my wonderful friend Jacob, and then where the monster is going to arrive. We'll see if the monster is what it normally is, but last week was weird. I clicked the button, it was not the right monster. My audio was a little weird, but and we're going to talk about a monster that we're going to show how you can utilize it, maybe unique ideas that maybe you didn't think about on how to utilize it. And then the last 30 minutes is an opportunity for you as the audience to ask any questions you want about to our guest, to myself, to Jacob, and we'll go from there. So
PG-13 questions, of course.
PG-13 questions, of course. This is a tavern, however, though, so we do swear and we get a little rowdy sometimes. It's just a good time. And if you'd like, you can have a drink on the channel, but we try not to tell people that too much. So there is that.
I'm on fizzy water.
Hide them is the way to do that. Anyway, so to start off, we're just going to get kind of a quick pitch on who you are and what you do in this space. So if you don't mind telling us.
Oh my God, who I am? Well, that is very hard to define. Are we talking metaphysical, or are we talking physical? Or are we talking, so yeah, my name is Bleak, or Bleakseason. I guess predominantly I run my own AP channel, Folk and Myth, where I produce games and run games. That's the main thing that I do. I'm also GM over on Start Playing, running some games there for folks, running a lot of vampire things like that. And that's been the main thing. I haven't really gotten too much into writing or publishing anything as of yet, simply because the focus has been real on games. But yeah, so it's been a few years now of running APs every week. And in fact, for a while it was kind of crazy, and it was like several times a week, kind of trying to pull back on the reins now a little bit. Just that's about it, I guess. That's what I do here. I run games that are kind of dark. I like the dark stuff, and run some vampire and some cult stuff like that. And I think it's a bit of a different offering, I think, than we get in a lot of places. And yeah, just mostly hang out with my friends and play some games, I guess is awesome. Where it's at.
Yeah. So one thing I love to do is I love to start with 3 questions, and then from there we just kind of rabbit hole until we get to the monster attacking. And usually the rabbit hole lasts much farther than the monster attacking now, but we'll so the first question I love to ask is, what was your first experience with tabletop gaming? Not as a professional, not as part of an AP, but like your first actual experiences too.
I guess when I was about 16 years old, which was, I don't know, 277 years ago, I was super. So I come from a very, very small town in the middle of nowhere in Canada, and where I grew up, D&D and things like that weren't, and it was French town, and because I'm French Canadian, it wasn't really a big thing. But my dad bought a lot of comic books. We read a lot of comic books, and I would always see the ads for D&D back. And so, I mean, we're talking, this is like 1989-ish, 90 kind of thing. And so I would always see the ads for Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" Because I was super in sci-fi and fantasy and all that. I was like, "Oh, what is that? That looks cool." And my first brush with anything related to this was when my family we went on summer vacation. I don't remember where. It might have been Florida or New Hampshire or something like that. And we walked into a bookstore. I was big into reading books already, and we walked into a bookstore, and there was a whole wall of D&D products. And I was like, "Oh my god, this is where it's at. This is the place everyone's been talking about."
Oh.
I found so I bought 3 things, not knowing what any of it was. I bought 3 things. I bought a novel, which ended up being the second book of the Dragonlance series.
Okay.
Dragons of Winter Night. I bought a module for Forgotten Realms. I had no clue what it was, right? So I'm just like, "Oh, the cool cover.
This looks cool." This
And I
looks
bought
cool.
this looks good. I bought a box. There was like a little town that you could make, like it was like cardboard, and you would fold it, and it would make like for miniatures and stuff. So I mean, none of this I could use. So I was like a little bit disappointed. But I read the Dragonlance novels. I read them in this weird order because they were hard to get. So I read the second one, half the third one, then the first one, and then finished the third one. And so it was kind of there, and I was really into it. But I didn't know anyone, and back then we didn't have connections through the internet and whatnot. So, and then one day, I'm in when I was in high school, I was working on the stage crew, doing technical stuff for shows and whatnot, and it was my first time. It's my first show, and during the show, the guy who was running the stage crew, this guy George, who ended up becoming my best friend and kind of initiating me into all this, was like, "If you want to hang out," we hit it off. It was our first time working together, and we hit it off. And he was like, "If you want to hang out during the show instead of going home and coming back after to do the takedown, we'll just hang out. A couple of friends are going to come over." So a couple of friends do come over. These 2 other guys, Eric and this other guy, Christian, also same name as me. They show up. They got a 6-pack. We're hiding in the green room and back, having some beers. At some point, Chris goes somewhere else, and I'm there alone with George and Eric, and they start talking something weird. I'm like, "Fuck," and they're like kind of having a discussion, pretty intense. I'm like, "Is this a lover school? What's going on? Like, what are you guys doing?" And George's like, "Oh, yeah." I was like, "What the fuck? Is it someone's gonna stab someone?" And George's like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, we played this game called Dungeons and Dragons, and last night we played, and my character betrayed the whole group, so we were just having an in-character discussion about it." And I was already like, "Did you say Dungeons and Dragons?"
What?
Say less.
Say that.
So George was like, "Yeah, you've heard about it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've heard about it. I got a few things, but I didn't know anyone played." He's like, "Oh, well, fuck, if you want to play, hang out. We'll go to see the GM and the DM after the show." So we finished the show, and we went up there, and it was like 3 a.m. We woke this dude up, my first DM.
Oh my
We
gosh.
woke him up. He comes to the door. It's the middle of winter. He's in his bathrobe. He's like this. He's like, "The fuck do you want?" And George's like, "Oh, hey, Marcel, this is Chris. Chris would like to play D&D with us." He looks at him and goes, "Hey, come back next Saturday," and closes the door. And that was it. I came back next Saturday. I made my first character, which was an elven rogue, an elven thief, they were called back then. And that's it. Like, I became super obsessed, and I didn't stop. And we were playing only every 2 weeks, and it was just this like constantly. Then I got like the player's handbook and stuff, and I was just like the second edition. This was second edition D&D. That player's handbook, I must have read through it a million times, because that's all I would do. I would redo my character sheet, I would like because
"Oh yeah, this looks better. I should do this instead." And then you find something new.
Yeah, just to do something with the game. And I had that book still from back then. I kept that book through the years. And a friend of mine recently was talking about how that's the only book he was missing in his collection of all the original D&D books. I gave it to him, my friend Kurt. I gave it to him a couple of months ago. I was like, "Here, it'll be in a good place," but it still had my name and everything in the corner from like,
Yeah. Wow.
1990 or whenever it was that I got that. So yeah, that was it. I was hooked, and it was just downhill from there.
Do you remember what the first story was that you got thrown into?
I don't. So my first DM, Marcel, was a great guy. He was very much like, just take the module, run the module, though. He wasn't creating anything, and I know that we played through a bunch of different things, but I don't really remember anything particular about the story at that point. I know we were 7th level. I remember that. And I remember the name of my character, Eric's Shadowcloak, the Elven Thief. Yeah. So that was my character. And I don't remember what the story was, but I remember a lot of the other players' characters. There were one of the guys, people I'm still friends with that I play Baldur's Gate with, because we're all in different parts of the world now. But this one guy was playing a paladin that had like a 5 intelligence or something, and he had a scimitar speed. So I remember that, like, that was his thing. Like he was the dumb paladin. And so, different things. Like my friend George always played wizards, and once we hit 7th level, he always betrayed the group. That was always like that.
Every time, George. Every time.
Jesus, George.
Come on, George.
But then we got really quickly, I would say within a year, we got into playing Shadowrun, and that Shadowrun took over. Like for me, once I hit Shadowrun, I was gone. So when I started GMing, and I was just like obsessed with that game. So that's kind of where it took off.
What was the one thing, like, you played the game once? What was the one thing that caught your attention so much that you continued to want to come back? Because I think it's really interesting when we talk about Dungeons and Dragons. It's a much different, or even tabletop in general, it's a much different mentality, because it's like getting bit. Like you get infected. Like really, it's the way it is. It's like if you're either not going to play, or you're going to play so much and want to keep playing and keep playing and keep playing. What was that thing for you that just kept you wanting to keep playing?
I mean, I was someone who was very much into fantasy and science fiction. Like the earliest, where I grew up, there was me and 7 girls, like in my little kind of neighborhood, and girls didn't become fun until much later. So when I was young, I played alone a lot, and from a very young age, I would watch a lot of films like Zorro or the Three Musketeers or things like that, and I would make sword. My dad, I don't know how many of my dad's broomsticks I fucking destroyed making swords and stuff like that. So I would make those things. And I'm talking about when I was, 11, 12, 13, already at that age. I would put on a cloak, and I would have the sword, and I would be in the backyard, and I would have these complex stories but I had like actual like stories that I would act out, and I would do that. So I had that in me from a very, very early age, doing that stuff. Anything I found, any stick I found was a sword or a gun or whatever, and there would be a character that would come with it, and I would just start doing that. And I think once I found D&D, finding the guys that play D&D, like it was finally like finding my tribe in some ways. In many ways, like those guys were kind of exactly what I'd been looking for without knowing, because I come from a very small place, and most of my life I was in this very small village, and then I went to high school in the bigger city, and that's when I met all these dudes. And so to be able to have a structured way with other people of playing these same stories I'd been playing in my head for years and years on end, and kind of having my imagination kind of translate on the table with the minis and the maps and this, that, the other. And the other big thing was the guys, because I was bowled over. These guys were all so smart. Like until I started playing with them, I was really into hanging out in basements, smoking dope and getting high and listening to metal. That was basically all that we did. And when I met them, like one of them's a chemical engineer, one of them's a doctor, one of them's an engineer, I met these guys. They were all smart, they were all reading. We'd sit together when we weren't playing, we'd hang out, and they'd have these discussions about anything, whatever was kind of going on. And I was like, and I very clearly remember sitting there one day feeling dumb as hell, sitting around these guys and going, man, I want to be like that. Like I want to be smart like that. And that's when I started reading, like just first devouring D&D novels and stuff like that, but then just kind of everything else, and kind of wanting to just be smart and be aware and kind
Mhm.
of know all these things. And those two things really kind of kept me going, of wanting to be in that environment, wanting to be with these people, and wanting to play these games. And it was really kind of like seeing my imagination kind of finally take form, and
Yeah,
being able to share it with these other guys, because I'd been playing alone so much when I was a kid, right?
absolutely.
So that camaraderie and all that was really kind of what drew me in. And it's the same thing now. Like, if you'd ask me right now, the hardest thing to give up if I had to stop streaming, it would be giving up playing with all the people I've met playing. My current partner is someone that I met through playing games. So
Yeah.
the people would be the hardest thing to kind of give up on at this point. So it's
Oh,
kind of the same thing
absolutely.
back then.
Yeah, and I think I think that's why you see these communities grow so fast, because that's what we're looking for. Like, we're looking for a tribe. We're looking for our people that feel like we fit. Um,
I often think one of my favorite bands, not just because I'm Canadian, but because I have great taste, is Rush. And I always, the song Subdivisions by Rush always hit me really hard, right? This
Yeah.
idea of like being the misfits and the people that don't really fit in, and kind of not being cool, and kind of not being part of that, oftentimes mean you're alone. But then when you meet the other uncool, because it was, RPGs are kind of cool now, D&D's kind of cool now, but back when I was a kid, when I was 16,
Yeah.
17, it was not cool. So finding those people that were just kind of into that, and it was okay, and it didn't really matter what kind of clothes you wore, or whatever, you just show up at the table and play, and there were people from kind of all different things.
Yeah.
I think was a very big game changer for someone who was a very awkward and shy kid at that age.
Yeah, and I think that happens more and more. I think, like you said, it's a little bit cooler to play nowadays, but it's for those that didn't get that experience when we were kids, or when we were young adults, it's kind of what the Misfits grew from. It was a bunch of guys. We were overseas. We were deployed in the UAE for a year, or for 6 months, and we realized that was it. Like, that was the one thing that could connect everybody. We had 4 different countries. We had 5 different branches. And though we really didn't have a lot in common for a lot of that stuff, the one thing we had was the table and the dice. And I saw that as an opportunity. And then sadly, I was the only one out of the group that ran with it. But what I have found from it is incredible. I found a community of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very incredible people. So you mentioned after you got into Shadowrun, that's when you decided it was time to jump to the other side of the screen. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, we were playing 3 games regularly back then. It was D&D was the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Then a friend of mine brought in Shadowrun, and he ran it for a little bit, and I fell in love with it. And then we were also playing a lot of BattleTech and MechWarrior.
Oh, okay.
And so we kind of each had our specialty. Like, Marcel ran D&D, my buddy Mark ran MechWarrior and BattleTech, or my buddy Johnny also did. And then I wanted to play Shadowrun, but someone was going to have to run it, and
you're like, well, I guess I'm stepping up.
That ended up being me, and but I was so immersed in that world and so kind of obsessed with it that the idea of creating stories, and at first I ran modules, would buy the modules and run them, and I really quickly kind of got out of that and just started creating the world. And that, to me, to this day, I think it's one of the top 2 things about doing this hobby or being a GM that I love, is creating and populating the world, painting the portrait upon which everything else kind of hangs.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I don't know why Shadowrun more than anything else, but there was something about the magic and the technology and all that, and
Magic
the
and
world of
sci-fi
it, and
mixed together.
Yeah, and there was something kind of, I liked the supernatural and the horror aspect of it that you could find in there. And because even though when I was younger, I totally did not watch horror films and I was a huge chicken, I was still very curious about that stuff, and Shadowrun had that veneer of there's something strange going on behind the doors or whatever.
Right.
You know, so it drew me in more than D&D, which was very kind of straightforward, especially the way my GM ran it, which was dungeons, you know.
Yeah. Awesome. So when did the shift go from D&D and Shadowrun and BattleTech to what we're seeing on your channel, which is cult, vampire, you know, a lot darker themes, a lot more realistic, almost.
I all started in jail in Tijuana when I guess
I wouldn't judge if it was, so you know.
No, I mean, I started playing vampire. So once, after all of that, eventually I moved to where I live now, which is Montreal, and I met more people that were playing. And we were playing mostly Shadowrun at that point. And I met this one guy. So the first thing that happened, actually, that kind of opened the floodgates was, and this is how I met Jacob also, interestingly enough, was vampire. We played LARP. There's a LARP that started up. We used to live, my roommate and I at the time lived a block away from a gaming store that had just opened. And one of the first things they did was get together a vampire LARP. And we knew nothing about vampire, really, or like, you know, but it seemed interesting. And so we got into that. And because we lived next door, we were there all the time, we got to play the elders. So we had powerful characters right off the bat.
Nice.
And it took maybe, and the game was huge. Like when it started, there was over 100 people playing. And it expanded eventually to that. They created a shared universe, and there were like 30 odd cities across Canada and the United States that were banded together in this thing. And you could show up anywhere with your character sheet. Were you in that?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was my first experience with tabletop. Was a vampire LARP. That was my first experience.
That's a hell of a way to start.
Yeah, I tell this story a lot because it really is an interesting twitch from a lot of people. Is I lived in a small town like you, and one of my friends at the time was like, "Oh, my dad lives an hour away, and we live right next to a college campus, and I think you'll really enjoy this." And I was like, "Okay." And I couldn't drive yet. I was, I think, a freshman in high school, and my mom drove us up, dropped us off on a college campus, and there's like 50 people walking around in trench coats, got the whole paint up, everything. And my mom's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "He says it's good." Like, I mean, we're at a college campus. There's a cop right over there. Like, nothing can go wrong, right? And I was naive as heck, so I didn't know what I was getting into. And yeah, no, that was my first experience. We played from like 7 o'clock at night until like 3 o'clock in the morning on this college campus. And then they're like, "All right, we're going to go back to my dad's. And then tomorrow morning at 1 in the afternoon, we're going to meet back up at the campus and we're going to play D&D." And I was like, "Oh." So then that's what we did for every weekend for like 3 years straight.
Jeez. Oh man.
Vampire.
The best, huh?
Yeah. Vampire Friday night. And then Saturday afternoon is D&D, and then Saturday night was Vampire again. And goodness gracious.
Wow, jeez.
Yeah, it was crazy, but we were part of the full, because we would have people from all over the country come over and just show up. I'm like, this is a college campus. How are you allowed to do this? But whatever. I didn't question.
Where was it? Do you mind saying? Or
Kent State University in Salem, or in Ohio.
Okay, I don't know if our thing reached out that far. I remember playing in Indiana.
Yeah,
and I remember
right next door from there.
Yeah, so it might have been the same thing, because that was the whole thing. And people back then, the internet was just BBSs, right? And email was just kind of start. I remember the first guy to show up with a Hotmail address, and we're like, "Go Hotmail!" Eh? And but that's how it was organized. It was crazy that you could show up anywhere with your character and it would be recognized and your status would be recognized. And
yeah, I was a Nosferatu who was a mercenary for a Giovanni clan. And the funny thing is like if I showed up anywhere, I had my friend, or I had the guy that I was working, my boss would send me his stuff too, so that I would automatically be accepted into the Giovanni clan wherever we were at. Which they're like, oh, yeah, he's just gonna work for him this time while he's here. And it's like, all right, cool.
He's a friend of ours.
Yeah, he's a friend of ours. It's like, oh, okay.
So that was crazy to kind of get into that. And cult was, I met a guy who was randomly assigned, because I was the elder Bruja, and he was randomly assigned to be my childer in the game. And this guy, what was his name, Jason? And he was like, oh, have you heard this game Cult? And I was like, no, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's really crazy. Do you want to play? And I was like, sure, I'll play anything. And so he put together a game of Cult, and the first session, what we did was we watched Hellraiser. And it was like, this is what this game is. You have to watch this. Now, keep in mind, remember a minute ago when I said I used to be really chicken, I didn't watch any horror films, right? So that was that. And I'm watching Hellraiser, and I'm like...
And this is what we're playing?
Yeah. And it awoke something in me. It broke something in me, whatever. And we didn't get to play. I think we played once. Like, it just fell apart right away. But I was hooked. I bought a bunch of books. And I kept just wanting to play it. And I honestly did not get to play it until 2.5 years ago, maybe. My friend Darling Creep Show, who has her own channel on Twitch, is a fantastic miniature painter and plays in all my games.
Absolutely.
Tune into one of my games. Darling Creep Show's there. She was like, you want to run a game on my channel and just run something fucked up? And I was like, have you ever heard of Cult? And so I ran Cult. I ran a 4-part Cult on her thing, and she became super hooked on it. So since then we were like, let's play Cult again. And I'll tell you, one of the most intense experiences we had was 2 years ago when we went to GaryCon. We all met for the first time. All these people I was friends with. My current partner, Elena Handbasket, and Darling Creep Show, and Kurt, and Little Bones, and whatnot, and all these people. And it was Ian, your boy Big, all these people. It was the first time we were meeting in the flesh. And I was like, okay, well, I'll run a game for us. And what do you want to play? And everyone was like, let's play Cult. So we played Cult live, and I had everyone, at some point their characters were going through the seance, and I had everyone blindfolded, and I had like a sound deck with me, and I started playing these weird... And people were freaking out. Like it was so... The atmosphere was so intense just because of like what we knew of the game. Nothing had even really happened in the game, but just because people knew Cult's fucked up, you know?
Well, that, and on top of it, you also have the opportunity of now being in a physical location where everything, you can mess with other senses, right? Like,
yeah,
it's very hard to mess with, vision or sounds over stream sometimes, unless you've really got some good setups.
Yeah, it's not as, it's definitely not as easy to use. I know some people who do it really well. But so we had a great experience, and then but anyway, so going back to Call of Vampire, that's when I started realizing I liked the darker stuff. Before that, it was just like high fantasy, kind of stuff. And then that's when I was like, once I hit Vampire, once I hit Cult, I was like, okay, like I like. And then I started just reading darker novels, and I was reading a lot of comic books back then. I got into like the darker stuff. I started reading Hellblazer and those kinds of comic books, Preacher and whatnot. And I was like, I like the weird stuff.
I like the weird stuff.
I like the weird stuff. It's just good. And that's kind of where that began. And there was a period of time where I worked in the States, and I didn't have the opportunity to play, like, so we're moving around a lot, and I kind of, there's like a 5-year period there where I didn't play much at all. And when I came back and I picked it up again, I haven't stopped since. And since then it's been like, when I saw Vaesen, I was like, ooh, Vaesen, that looks cool, like I want to play that, and then I want to play Cult again, I want to play Vampire again, I wanted to play like these darker games. And when we started the channel Folk and Myth, that was one of the things we wanted to do, was like, let's play some gothic stuff, let's play some darker stuff, and kind of see where we can go with that.
Yeah,
it's
and
how we ended up where we are.
That's awesome.
It's
Well,
on the list.
speaking of darkness, let's see what monster shows up tonight, because last time it was some sort of banshee thing. It was interesting.
Oh, I know it's supposed to kind of bring you a monster, and we never talked about it.
We'll talk about it. All right, the dragon is back, so that means that we get to speak. We get to talk about the monster now. So when the dragon arrives, we find out what your monster is for the evening, and it can be anything, really. We're just gonna, and then you might just have to explain to me, because if I've never heard of it.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right, cool. I thought you had a monster prepared, but I do have a monster. I am going to. I wasn't sure if you wanted a specific monster or a type of monster, so prepare an answer for both.
Either works.
Yeah.
I think that one of the most interesting monster that is kind of popular but still doesn't get quite enough love, and the game built around it is really not one that I feel does it justice, is the werewolf.
Ooh. For somebody who plays as a werewolf, I love that game.
I'm not saying it's a bad game in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that the whole, and I know it's reductive to say this way, but the whole Echo Warrior part of it, to me, I like the Victorian Gothic, or like, the film that Eggers is making around werewolf, like that kind of medieval. Like that's the kind of werewolf stuff I like. The cursed werewolf, the dark, side kind of human beings.
Oh, werewolf. you like my character then, because he is not the Echo. He is not the Echo friendly one. So, but he's also a. Technically, they're not around anymore, but he's part of the Get of Fenris.
Yeah.
So,
What are they called now, or whatever? There's Yeah, that was part of the big. Some of the stuff we came up with was a little bit dodgy.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Werewolf the Apocalypse. I played a lot of it. I played it LARP style.
I never got to play it LARP style. I always got to play Werewolf as only with tabletop. So
I'm a fucking asshole, and every time I play a werewolf, I'm like, can I play a werewolf who doesn't shape change? And when Jim's like, what? And so. The last time I played was my buddy Kurt was running a game off stream, and I love Silent Striders and Shadow Lords. Those are my two favorite. And I was like, can I take the flaw? Can't transform. He's like, oh no, you can't do that. The game's going to be pretty heavy combat, and you're just going to be giving yourself too much. And I was like, okay. And we played I played a Shadow Lord, and we played 7 or 8 sessions, and I never changed forms once. They would get into a fight, and I would just like let them go, and I beefed up all the social. But anyway, so I never. So I'm just an asshole. What do you like about it? What do you like about the I'll tell you what I like after, but what do you like about the werewolf? Like, why is that? It feels like it's a very close thing to you.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've always had the affinity to wolves in general, so it's been an animal that I've tracked for most of my life. It's one of the but I think for me it is the understanding that they have that pack mentality. I think is where I really enjoy it, because it's like, oh, you have your people, but then you have the people that you would protect with, like you would give your life for, right? But like after that, it's just whatever that story is. But like I played a very unique werewolf, because my werewolf was the opposite of everybody else in the group, because mine was 2 wolves that produced, and then finally he showed up as a werewolf later on in life. So when he had his first change, he didn't understand what was going on because he's a wolf. So he did everything very primal. And that turned into some questionable things that were happening in what we would call his young adult years, where he only did 2 things and they both started with F. And that was it for like years. And that turned out to bite me in the ass. And I will say that I can say that because our game master or our storyteller was in the chat. I don't know if he's still in the chat, but yeah, he got me good at the end of the season 1 because of that. So yeah, no, I just thought it was it's a little bit less social deduction than than vampire, and I'm not always the best social person, so I'm like, this is me. So
it fits, yeah.
I got to do both of them, so I actually had a werewolf as well, besides the vampire that you know about.
Yeah,
and I was a
we
silent
should talk
strider.
about that. That was good.
Yeah, I was a silent strider, so that was fun
Nice.
as well. And then I will say, if Sam's still there, like you asked, I think I threw Sam for a loop because like my character was only supposed to be there for a little while, and we did this thing where he's like, yeah, you get locked in the void or behind the shroud for a little while, and I was like, okay. So we go into like another play campaign that's a side story, and he's like, I was like, hey, how long have I been gone? He's like, you've been gone for 2 days, okay? And I come out, and my character was like an influencer, so he carried a camera around with him and interviewed cryptids and like talked about like, we're gonna go find,
you pissed off Sasquatch, like
a locked in monster. We're gonna do all this other stuff. And then he comes back from having like long brown hair, and he's got long white hair because of all the shit he's seen on the other side. And he carries around a wolf skull with him, doesn't have a phone in sight, and he had been there for 2 years. And Sam's like, I'm gonna go with this, but you're gonna have to chill out on like extra stuff that you throw at me. So we ran that, and of course like all this other stuff happened with that character, but like that was one of the aspects that I really loved, is you do have the whole other side that is this untapped thing that you can take a step and come out in a completely different area.
Yeah, the Umbra.
Yeah, the Umbra, or like the thing of time could be totally different. So you could go from having one character that you've played this way and then completely change because of the Umbra.
What I like about the werewolf is, first of all, I'm a huge nerd, and so I always think in terms of the themes of something. And the thing that I love about the world, so I like vampires. Obviously, I play a lot of vampires, but vampires are, to me, for the most part, people who kind of accept what they are, and they are just this thing now, right? Like the idea in vampires, you lose your humanity, and that's that. Whereas with werewolf, I've always loved that concept of the two sides, right? And I mean, it's so prevalent in literature and in popular culture that the amount of stories, whether it's the Hulk, whether it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, whether it's, anything else, that idea of, because I really, really strongly believe that we all have those two sides to us, the kind of more logical, rational side, and then the party beast that just wants to F and, and whatever else. And I think that being a human being is learning to balance those two sides, because I'm gonna get super nerdy on you here. Is your underwear attached?
I'm not wearing it, no.
Nietzsche talked about Nietzsche's philosophy of art was that man has two sides, the Apollonian and the Dionysian. And the Apollonian's the Apollo, the god of science and all that, so it's the logical, rational part of us. And then the Dionysian. The only way for an artist to be a true artist is to have both sides in balance, because as soon as one is higher than the other, you veer too far into that side thing, become too chaotic or too primitive, whatever, or you become way too restrictive and kind of organized. And there's, this is not a new concept. A million people have written about that, but I really feel that as human beings, even something, I'm a teacher and I always tell my students, whenever you're like, oh, I have to do this essay, but I really want to go out with my friends tonight. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out with my friends tonight, and tomorrow I'm going to wake up extra early and I'm going to work on my essay just before class. And being attacked. And that never works, right? But that's the logical side of us. That's, trying to negotiate with the other side, and that aspect of whether it's doing the dishes now or doing them later, or watching TV or not watching TV, or staying, but like constantly every decision we make throughout the day is that decision between those two sides fighting, right? And I think the werewolf, more than any other monster out there, really embodies that duality of the two people. And I think one of the things that the game of Werewolf the Apocalypse has done is kind of moved away from that a lot, because there's not a lot of real good reason to remain a human. Like, and all the fun happens when you're Krenosing or doing some shit with that, right? And I think that conflict is what's interesting in that monster. And as much as vampires are cool and mummies are cool and dragons are cool and whatever the fuck else is cool, that werewolf, I think, is in many ways the one that exemplifies the most the core experience of being a human being, of constantly having to. And that's why I think it's an underused, underserved, underappreciated monster in a lot of these things. And I have this, I'm totally doing this in October. I've had this idea forever of doing this retelling of Beowulf with werewolves and vampires. Ooh. And I'm 100% doing that in October. So brace yourself for that. We're going to dive into
nothing going on in October. Just a heads up.
But yeah, so that to me is why that monster, I think, is super fascinating. And I hope Robert Eggers is a fantastic filmmaker. Nosferatu was brilliant. The Witch was brilliant. The Northman was brilliant. The Lighthouse is brilliant. So I'm just sitting here waiting for Werewolf to come out and hopefully finally get a good, dark as fuck werewolf thing. Probably a lot of Aaron Taylor Johnson running around naked.
Some people would be very happy about that.
Hey, but yeah, so that's the werewolf for me. That's why
I like that, and I think that's the one thing that this year we've really focused in on monsters for a good portion of the interview lately, because we are finding unique ways to utilize them. It's a cool idea to utilize it that way, even in high fantasy. Because it does give a little bit less of, or a little bit more of the idea that, if you attack this thing, you don't know what it's going through. Like, you don't understand what that monster's going through. What is it? Why is it the way it is? Why is it cursed? What has happened? And can it control it? Like, that's the thing, If you see a giant 9 foot tall half wolf man in a forest, are you going to immediately strike it, or are you going to find out if this thing actually has full control of itself, and whatnot? And I think it's a cool concept.
I did one of the Vaesen games I did at some point had the players were on the ship, and the ship was mired in ice. There was like this sudden, obviously kind of supernatural ice storm that had come by and had frozen the sea, and they were on this big boat and they were frozen there, and someone got killed in some horrific manner, and the players were like investigating that, and it was clear some beast had killed this person. And eventually they start investigating, and the beast kills another person, and they see it, and it's a werewolf, and then the werewolf runs off the boat, and they end up having to go on an island there by crossing the ice and go on an island going after a werewolf. But the whole point behind the story was that this werewolf was a woman she was Swedish, and her husband had left to go. Her husband was Finnish, and he had left to go to the front to fight the Russians in Finland, and he had gotten killed, and she had gone there to kind of follow in his footsteps, and while on the front had been bitten by this Russian werewolf, and she had discovered who were the men who had betrayed her husband's unit and had been tracking them, and the two people that she killed on the boat were two undercover Russian agents that were going to hide it in Sweden. So the players were like, oh, that's the monster, obviously, right. The thing has killed these two people, this journalist and this other person, and blah blah blah, and they're like, oh my god, and they're like arming themselves with silver and all that. And then as the story progressed and they started kind of hearing. And then there was obviously another creature that had created the ice thing, and that's what they had ended up having to fight. But like that was it was exactly that. Like, yes, this is this big monster and all that, but at the same time, like there's all this rich backstory to it that once you start discovering, you're like, well,
peel the onion back a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Yeah. No,
and
that's awesome.
Can we really kind of just kill this person, really? Because she was also just this woman, right? This Swedish woman who had left her farm to go and try and find her husband, just you know. And in Basin, the way to cure a werewolf curse is fucked up. I don't even know if I can talk about it here, but it's messed up.
It's fucked up.
For me to say that.
Now I'm gonna have to buy the book just to. I have it on. I mean, I can go pull it up on PDF, but I'm not.
When you look at the werewolf in Basin, every monster has like a secret box at the end, which is like a different way of dealing with him or something that the players can discover if they're really good or whatever.
Yeah.
And the werewolf's secret is this is the only sure way of getting rid of a werewolf, and it's messed up.
All right.
I'm gonna have to pull my Vason books out now and start looking through this stuff.
I was like, Jacob, go. We'll talk after stream.
Let's go. Hold on.
No, that's awesome. So what are some unique? I mean, I was gonna say what are some unique ways you've used werewolves, but like that one specifically blew my mind. Like that's such a good idea to put a very traumatic but beautiful story behind this, and then just the bittersweet action that they got bit. Like really, that's kind of where they're at, and now they're fighting through it.
That's a big, like almost everything I do, I try to have those kinds of things. I like to put players in situations where it's like fuck, you know, like what do we do with that? Like that's a big part of it.
And I think that's probably partially comes from the unique background that you have for stuff like this as an English literature and creative writing professor. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah.
Listen, all my greatest ideas have been stolen. Like not other people have stolen. I have stolen. Like there is nothing like literature to inspire you. You'll read something that has nothing to do with D&D or fantasy or anything like that, and the best ideas come from there. And there was a thing I used to do when I started Folk and Myth. There was this thing I used to do with where every game I would start by reading a poem that I felt connected to the game. I just had to stop at some point because there was too many fucking games, and it was just like finding a new poem every time was kind of, you know, once I went through the Rolodex of the ones that I knew. But there is always a poem or a play or a book that has a great idea that you can take and flesh out and transform and use in the settings that go beyond a lot of the regular tropes that we see and use in these games. And I think that a lot of, if anyone were to say something nice about me and my GMing style in my games, I think one of the things that would come back is that there's always something different about it. Like you always think it's going there, but it always goes somewhere completely kind of different. And a big part of it's just this idea of like making connections between ideas and things, and always subverting expectations. Like, yeah, you think this is a story about this, but no, like, you know, it's kind of a completely different thing. And because I think we've seen so many games, we've played so many games, we've seen so many movies, that like almost nothing surprises us anymore.
Right.
And
so when you find that opportunity,
and having access to the broader scope of literature and, you know, all these things, I think, and it could, because I'm teaching it also, I keep finding new things and reading new things. And I'm making my students read fucked up shit all the time. They're like, what the hell, man?
Educating our kids. We are educating the kids of
tomorrow. I'm educating them. But I'll, you know, and it's just that. And I tell my students, I'm like, what's important is not for you to read this one story or to read 10 stories. and to analyze them. What's important is for you to be exposed to a bunch of different things, so that later when you see something else that reminds you of this, it'll kind of spark that back, and then you can make a connection between two things, and you can be like, and that's how that's how the brain gets,
how it grows.
Pathways in your brain are built when you make connections between things. So the more stuff you have to make connections with, that's kind of where it comes in. And there's so much great stuff. Like, just read, like,
it all leads back to Hellraiser.
It all leads back to
all by Hellraiser freaked me out, and I rewatched it because when we were going to do Cult recently, my partner was like, well, we have to watch Hellraiser. So we watched the first two Hellraisers. And the thing about Hellraiser, and why Hellraiser is different than every other horror movie, is because it's done from such a different point of view because of Clive Barker's own experience as a gay man. And all these things, and it's exactly the thing I was thinking the other day. It's exactly the thing as the first time Rob Alford from Judas Priest stepped out wearing the fucking S&M gay stuff, and it became the emblematic aesthetic of metal when people had no clue where it came from. Like, it came from such a unknown place, of a place that so many people don't know anything about, that all of a sudden like, oh, this is fucking incredible, right? Meanwhile, these people have been living in there, Rob and his people have been living in that aspect for so long, but for everybody else it was like, oh, the fuck is this, and that was the same thing with Hellraiser, where it wasn't about a monster killing just to kill, or it wasn't a vampire, it was someone technically okay. I saw a meme this week that was like, she's basically going around killing a bunch of people so she can bring back the best shag she ever had. and that's literally what it is. She wants this guy who used to bang her and it was great, and that she loved, to bring him back. And that tells you something, like her need for doing all these things stems from something that we don't talk about, like the female sexuality aspect of it, of she really wants this, like that's so transgressive, in so many corners of the world. You're not supposed to talk about that stuff, but absolutely. It was such a weird reason for this horror film to exist, and the ideas of it, of mixing the pain and pleasure. So it's so left field that you're like, you watch it and you're like, oh, this is not like Jason or Freddy or any of those things,
I'm gonna have to go rewatch this now. I haven't seen Hellraiser in years. The
first two, I haven't watched the others. I've been told the others are not.
They don't follow the same. Do they become more like an actual slasher film? Like, they're just kind of there, but they don't have the back, the history behind it.
And one of the things that already I could see with the second one is that they gave us background on Pinhead. The second one begins with who Pinhead was before he becomes Pinhead. And I'm like, I didn't need to see that. I did not want to see that. Like, I don't need to know that this guy used to be a soldier who blah, 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 because then that's all he is now.
Yeah.
Right? In that first film, you're like,
this dude's just,
what the fuck, and I think that because it's so different and so weird and we don't understand, and we understand her actions because they're very human, but theirs we don't, and that's so alienating, and that's what makes them so scary, because you're never going to be able to reason with them, you're never going to be able to understand them, you're not going to find a trick to there's none. It's just
I think very commonly you see that in the first of a lot of the slasher movies too, because if you think about Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger, you didn't know who he was. He just shows up, right? And then they start telling you the terrible story of how it's just give me why, what's going on here.
The worst trend in cinema is the prequel. I fucking hate prequels. I cannot stand prequels.
Another one I was thinking about, my brain just stopped on it.
That's when they should make multiple prequels. That way it's kind of like, hey, take what you want from this, but there could be many different stories of how this led up to it, and you'll never know.
Yeah, but the same thing with It. The original It, you didn't understand. And then they start telling you it's an alien and all this.
Yeah, and then you're like, and to me, it's the same thing. In a horror film, I'm always let down once we see the monster, because until we see the monster, it could be anything, and my imagination is fucking wild, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Then you see the monster and you're like, oh, okay, You know,
Yeah.
it takes a lot for someone to create a monster. There's this film that we watch called Arcadian. It's terrible, but it's I don't know if you saw Arcadian, and it's Nicolas Cage is in it for 2 minutes, so he's on the cover. But it's kind of this weird post-apocalyptic. The monsters in that were so freaky, and they were freaky because they did not behave the way a monster usually behave, and the way they made them freaky. There's this scene, one of the scariest scenes I've ever seen. That's what Helena is saying in the thing. Knowledge is the antithesis of horror. When you know something, it's no longer horrific. You know, when you can understand it. And there's this scene in Arcadian where the guy falls asleep, and these creatures come at night, and they bolted the door, and this guy falls asleep, and he's got this chair facing the door, but like fairly far away, so that if someone comes in, he has time to react. So he falls asleep, and so you get a shot from the side. So the guy's sitting here, and the door is here, and then you see like a piece of the door fall out. And then it's literally like on the screen here, like this hand comes in, and then it stops, and you're like, oh, the guy's far, and then it unfolds, and it's longer, and it keeps going, and then it stops, and then there's like this little point that comes up, and you're watching that, you're like, and the guy's just like, it was so freaky, because it was so alien, like it was so. And the way those creatures, anyways, you have to see they're kind of like horse heads that go. Anyway, it's fucked up just for that. It takes a lot to have a monster that is kind of actually freaky, because most of them, you're like, oh, it's a guy that was burned when he was whatever, and now he's angry and he's killing people. You know.
Well, it's like, you know, I thought the movie was dumb, but the concept was really interesting. Was Bird Box,
which I have not seen,
which is very similar to that idea. Like, you don't see them. Like, part of the point of it is that you don't know who the monster is.
Yeah, you never see it.
You don't ever see it. You see what people picture the monster could be, like they draw it and things like that, but you don't ever see it. And I thought that was a really cool concept.
Do you remember the first Cloverleaf? The first trailer for Cloverleaf?
Yes.
Right? That was freaky.
It was you didn't know what was going on.
You had no clue what was going on. People were coming up with all sorts of weird fucking, and it was really. And then in the end, when you watch a movie, you're like, okay. But in that first trailer, you were like, oh my god, like,
what's going on?
What even is this going to be? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's what was another one? And I know we're definitely off of the werewolf montage, but at the same time, we're kind of talking still about monsters. Is The Quiet Place was another one where until the monsters showed up, you were like, this thing is freaky. Like, you don't know what's happening. Things just start disappear. People get pulled away and things like that. So it was like, I think it's like you said, it's that anticipation up to it, and then it just dies.
Yeah. Well, once you see it, like, you know, and like, think of the first Freddy movie, right, where it's not even Freddy, and not Freddy, Jason. It's not even Jason.
Yeah,
right?
it's not even Jason. Yeah.
You know, and you're like, oh, and then at the end there's that, you know, then it's like, oh, you know, but then after that you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, now I know the monster. The monster's the same monster in every movie, so it's
exactly.
Well, and one of the things that you had brought up earlier that I really love was that aspect of how, like, when you do know what something is, then it kind of takes it away. And I think one of the ones that I subconsciously like is M. Night Shyamalan, because you do get it. You get to see what it is. But then you're like, okay, where's the twist at? Because there's going to be something fucked up out of this, okay? Like, I see the monster. I know the monster. Yeah. What is he? Is he actually like a guy from Men in Black that we just don't know about? What's gonna happen out of it?
To me, it was The Village. That was the first time I was let down.
That's what I was thinking.
The Village was so twisted and weird, and then when you find out what it is, you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, and that's, to me, that's a big thing. And I think if you want to bring it back to TTRPGs, I think creating that mystery of what is happening, especially in cult, like, you know, like we just finished, we're doing cult on folk and myth, and for a long time, like I told the players, don't read the book, don't read the lore, don't read fucking anything. Like, I want you going in here not knowing what it is. And like that's what was freaky. They did not know what was going on. Weird shit was happening, and they trusted me that it was gonna make sense somehow, somewhere.
Yeah.
But they didn't understand it, and that's what was freaky to them. And as a GM, that's, you know, if you're GMing horror, and which is the hardest thing to GM, I find, is effective horror, you have to hide the monster for as long as possible. And
right.
even if not have a monster, and just, it's fine. I often tell my players, you're not going to get answers. You're not going to get answers to everything, or you're not going to get answers just going into this. Just accept that, you know. And
yeah, the unreliable narrator is a wonderful thing to utilize for horror specifically. Sam, I see you're still in there, and you did a fantastic job at the end of season 1 for Night of the Worm. Yeah, didn't see it coming. We'll have my have my feelers open a little bit more next season.
But that's the thing, right? Once you've done it, it's the M. Night Shyamalan thing.
Yeah.
Once you've done it, people expect it.
Yeah.
Right? And then, like, you have to then twist yourself into even more knots to try and kind of out double, second, triple guess.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Like, the whole thing. But you have to be smart enough to play with that and to say, oh, you expect this? Well.
Yeah. I see where you're going with this, and I'm going to not let you get to there.
Well, and I liked when we got to do the LARP, because like that was one thing that kind of happened during it, was when Sam found that envelope, and you were like, somebody come find me, because we got to change it and tweak it just a little bit.
Yeah, Sam and his sticky fingers. When we did the LARP, I'd hidden things around the bar where we were, and in some cases it was so that whoever would find them would find them, and then in some cases it was because at some point I wanted to be able to tell someone in game, they'd get a message about something being somewhere, and they would go there and they would find it. And Sam found something and he ripped it. But the thing that was brilliant, and I don't know that Sam did it on purpose, I think it was just the situation. There were 2 things in that envelope, and he ripped it, and he took one, he left the other there. So he left the explanation of what the thing was behind. So he had this thing, but he had no clue what the thing was.
There you
go. Sam was fantastic, because the second I found out who it was, I was like, okay, come and tell me. Wait, not now when everyone's looking, but wait a little bit later and come and tell me who did it.
Yeah.
Once he did, and I would be able to just kind of go up to him and go, I need you right now to go over there and do this. And he would just go and do it. Like, he didn't question, he didn't, oh, well, can we do a test? So, you know, he was like, okay. I was like, I want you to go over there. I want you to go see her. And I want you to tell her to fucking kill you right now. And he would just like quit his discussion and just march across and do it. And just totally like kind of buy into it. And that was great. Like, he was like, I don't need to know. I don't need to understand. Like, this is a great moment. I'm just going to go and do it. And
yeah, I'm so glad. I'm so glad to have both of these guys as part of the team nowadays, because they're incredible.
Yeah, and Jacob had such a hard job, because I went to see Jacob and I'm like, okay, here's the thing. There's this guy there, and he's pretending to be the Archon, and you know he's not. But he's scary, and he's, you know, like, so Jacob's like, fuck. So I'm like, you're just gonna like fucking eyeball him all night and make him feel like, you know. And Jacob was great, like he was just following him around.
Who was played the Archon?
Kurt. So the actual Archon was Laura Tutu.
Okay.
Who played the actual Archon? She was there, hidden. No one knew who she was except for 2 people. And there was somebody else who had shown up. And Kurt, my buddy Kurt, I had given him the role. His character wanted to be part of this group of player of games things, but they didn't accept non-traditional Camarilla clans. And he'd received a letter that had told him, if you go to this place at this time and for 3 hours pretend to be this Archon and you survive, you're in. And that's all he had. So he showed up and he was like, I'm the Archon. And people were like, oh my God, he's the Archon. You know?
You did, Jacob?
But I told Jacob,
no.
you've met this guy before. You know he's not the Archon.
Oh, okay.
He swindled you in a gambling thing, and I was like, oh shit.
So then he's like, well, what do I do? Do I put, you know, and like, so.
Which
I was so
applause for Kurt, because like he's trying to figure out who I am. And James, you know which vampire character it is.
Oh yeah, I love that character.
And like we start going, we're LARPing, we're going through all the stuff, and we finally get to a point where he goes, well, what, like, what's your like deal with the world? Like, how do people like know you? I was like, they've made movies about me. What do you think? And Kurt's face instantly went from like the stern, how he was playing the Archon and everything, into trying not to laugh. And I'm like, I will let you put your fingers up so you can laugh out of character. I swear to God, I will let you do this. Because you holding it together as long as you did and then finally realizing the full extent of it was probably the funniest thing that happened probably the entire night, is when people go, what's this character doing here? Willy Wonka? What?
He brought it in the first episode we played together too, and it was, everybody was like, wait a second, like what is happening here? But it was great.
It's just a weird. There was a dude who was playing Guy Fieri also. Like,
oh yeah,
people just had the weirdest
fiery guy.
Yeah, and so it's always fun to see.
So I'm so sad. I was so burned out that day. I was gonna jump in, and I was like,
I remember as you came by, right? Yeah.
I'm literally going to die.
Hey man, that's cons for you, you know.
Oh yeah, I think that was like my third game already, and wow. I had another game, or I was passing up. I think that was the only time I didn't have a game, was that night, and then every other night I was fully packed. So,
I learned my lesson the first year I went, and I'm like, I handpicked 2 games I really really want to play. I GM 1 or 2 games, nothing more than once a day or something,
mm-hmm.
and because I'm like, I just want to hang out with my friends. And plus we do all sorts of pickup games all the time too, so
yeah. Well, and that was the thing is I think that literally happened. It was like, oh hey, I'm doing this, oh hey, we're doing it, okay, we're doing it. I'm like, okay. I was like, I can't do this.
Oh yeah, there's always something going on.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, I was coming straight out of a first edition game that I was playing with Heather Ashcraft, and then immediately showed up, and I was getting ready to go back. I hadn't eaten. That was the other thing. I hadn't eaten yet. I got barely asleep the night before, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, this isn't gonna work tonight." But I'm glad that
next year. There's always next year.
Oh yeah,
they loved it. The people at Garagon, really loved it, and they thought it was really successful, and they got a lot of really good comments from it. So,
and I'll bring an actual costume for that this year. I just had my mage outfit for this year, so.
Some people went all out. Some people were just.
I have to. I don't
show up as they were.
Playing an LARP for as many years as I did, I have to go all out if I'm going to do a vampire LARP again. It's a lot of fun though. I really enjoyed it when they did it, and from what everything that Jacob and Sam talked about, it sounded fantastic. It sounded like
we had a good time. Dungeon Mr. Ty was in the chat right now. Played the Malkavian's butler. What was your character's name, Ty? I forget right now, but anyways, Ty had never played vampire in his life. Elric, yeah. And he never played vampire in his life. And I was like, okay, you're going to be the butler. And he was like, the linchpin guy.
And Tysu, I walked up, like, I had like a couple people hand me ribbons for stuff. And I walked up to him, I said, hey, I'm going to give you all these ribbons. And it was like, why? And I said, you are the only person while I was playing Wonka that never, like, you didn't crack at all. I said, you stayed in character the whole time. And it was almost like this character's here. And I was like, I got to give you these because everybody else cracked at some point. I was like,
no, Ty's great. And he never played vampire before. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. And I just gave him a little thing. I'm like, okay, this. And, he had no clue that he was going to be like the central dude.
That's awesome. And what a cool opportunity to not know that you're being suckered in.
He knows now. See that now. Next time I'm fucked because everyone's going to expect that I'm suckering them. Next time it's just going to be very straightforward. No suckering anyone.
Yeah.
Sorry for suckering you, Ty.
Next time you'll have James and you'll be like, I'm suckering you in because you haven't played yet.
Yeah, because you haven't been here, so now we're gonna sucker you in.
That's fine. I will pull the bit no matter what. I don't give a crap. I'm okay with that completely. All right, yeah. So we have technically opened up happy hour. So this is your opportunity as the audience to ask your questions. We've been told that they must be PG-13. So
No, it's
all
all
the
right. You
guests.
can ask me NC-17 questions. It's okay.
Um,
I do
Jacob,
want
you
to.
haven't had a chance to talk. Oh wait, we'll have the
Sorry,
guest
no,
talk
please,
first.
no, please
Yeah.
go ahead. No.
Do you have
We'll
any
get back to it.
questions, Jacob?
Do I have any questions?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily a question, but I need to play a Vaesen game with you because I still got to learn how to play.
I haven't played Vossen yet either, so
It's a fantastic game if you like anything about the freely games. It's just
We don't talk about
we don't talk about
We
we don't
talk
talk about what's on the shelf.
yeah, no, I mean, absolutely, it's in the running for my favorite game. Like, it's definitely my top 2 or 3 games. I absolutely love running it, and like I said, I've used it to do all sorts of different things. I've done New England Gothic with it. I've done Penny Dreadful with it. I did a whole bunch of different things. So it's a super and I just love one of the things that's the most interesting to me about Vaesen is that they clearly intended it to be a kind of player destroy the Vaesen thing to save people, and everyone I played with is like, but we can't hurt them. We have to help them. Like, it literally, everyone I play with said, we can't hurt the Vaesen. It's not their fault, it's the humans who are.
Oh, man.
You always want to like save the Vaesen, and screw it. I'm like, okay, so I've kind of really adopted that as kind of the default way of playing this game, and I always make sure that behind every Vaesen there's a human doing something fucked up, and that's why the Vasen's acting up, and so it's kind of created that whole aspect of it organically from the players just playing that.
yeah, I want to play it. I want to play it once before I start picking up and start reading it, because I do want to get that experience, that first experience of just not knowing, and then I'll break the we'll break the veil.
Now you know where it's hard because I pick up all the books and I can't read them yet until I do the same.
Right? Yeah. No, dude, that's why I don't pick up half the books anymore. I'm just like, no, because my thing is like, if I play a game and I really like it, I'm gonna buy it anyway. So I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't just buy books just to buy books anymore. I used to. I don't do it.
Well, so,
Yeah, I'm very picky. They're so expensive, and I tend to use PDFs mostly now. I was very lucky that I had a really good connection at Free League for a while, and I got everything they had, like up until like
This year has been
a year ago, maybe, or something like that. So I got like the huge backlog of it, and they'll still once in a while send me stuff. So
yeah. If it's core stuff, I get it. If it's supplemental stuff, I don't get it anymore. But yeah, if it's core stuff,
I pick and choose a lot too. It's super expensive, and I just don't use them that much because I come up with my own stories all the time and everything. I just like the monster was one of the monsters I was going to bring is one of the best monsters I've encountered is in the new Vaesen, the Carpathia Mythic Carpathia book. There's this monster called the Varkalak, and I put it right away. I did a Vaesen game and I threw it right away, and I'm like, this monster is a fucking bomb. This giant wolf that actually eats the sun. I was like, yeah, okay, let's do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's bring that guy in. And so we used it right away. But like, it's the only real thing I'm using from that book, even though I enjoyed reading it. Most of the stuff I'm just gonna make up anyway. So
yeah, it's awesome.
Are there any other systems or other RPGs that you've seen that maybe you haven't tried yet but you want to?
yeah, I mean, I just got Coriolis from them that I really want to play, and there's tons of stuff. The stuff that I see that usually kind of excites me tends to be the more kind of independent type of games. Let me just give you an example. I just want to pull up something. Give me a quick second.
Oh man, my numbers are
so like I got I Delta Green I want to try again. I really haven't played enough Dragon Age or The Witcher that I kind of went into. There's weird games like there's the Midderlands and Mothership that I also want to play that I never really got to do too much. This is the game I'm going to tell you that I want to play, and I have it, and I am going to play it. It's a game called Raven, and it's published by Shadowlane Games. It was written by Daniel Espinosa, so it's a game that originally came out in Spain, I want to say, and it is entirely based on Edgar Allan Poe's work.
Mm.
And
I
so
saw this when it was being Kickstarter. I thought it sounded familiar. I saw this.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Basically, the story is that when Edgar Allan Poe died, he didn't die. He traveled to this island and he founded this city called Raven. And there was some magic there. And at some point, he got corrupted. And he founded this whole family is there. And they're the Corvus family. And they're cursed because of him. And there's this whole city. Anyways, there's like a ton. And everyone's like, all the character classes are like tormented necromancer and, you know, shit like that. And it is beautiful. It is brilliant. I'm a huge fan of Edgar Allan Poe. I'm a huge fan of Gothic. I'm just sitting on this game. There was the thing recently that Blackwater D&D did, the Blacklight project, and I pitched a project, and it was Raven. I'm like, fuck, this is what I want to pitch there, you know. But even if I don't get that, that's definitely like, I think the game that I'm most hankering to play right now is Raven. I used it in my class. This past semester, I was teaching an intro to Gothic literature in dark academia. And at some point, I always have a creative section in the I usually ask the students to create this story, but this year in groups, they had to make characters in the game and create a story that was set in the game's world with these characters that they'd created.
He's literally, like, if I had a professor that did that in college, I would have lost my mind and be like, wait, we're doing what? Yes.
And not all of them are like that. Some of them are like, this is the stupidest shit ever.
Yeah.
But some of them were like, there's a group of them, they were like, and I gave them just a quick start guide because I didn't want to run. Some of them were like, do you have the real book? I'm like, yeah, they're like, we want to actually play. Like, someone's going to run in and we're going to play. I was like, yeah, here we go, you know?
Right.
They were like super keen on it. And man, if I had a teacher who did that back then, I would have loved it.
I would have been like, oh, I actually had my, I think it was my 8th grade professor, or my 8th grade English teacher, who he was the first one to like pick up on things because I had brought my Vampire the Masquerade LARP book into school reading, and he was like, what's this? And I was like, well, this is what I do on weekends. And he's like, that's kind of odd. I was like, well, but then he started giving me a bunch of literature that was based on, you know, vampires, and I was like, oh, so you still bought into the idea.
Yeah, exactly. Ty, you're on. If you want to run Mothership for me, you're on. I'll hold you to that. My birthday's coming up, just so you know.
Yeah, I want to play. I'm down. I mean, I always want to play something. I always like new stuff. That's one of the reasons I love cons, because I try to pick at least 3 games at a con that I've never played before.
Yeah, I got to do that at Garricon. I played In Nomine. In Nomine is a game that Steve Jackson game did back in the 90s.
Yeah. That
I always had. I had to play. I had the book since back then. I never got to play, and I saw someone was running it. I was like, all right.
Yeah,
I'm in that. Now I get to play it.
I got to play Boot Hill, which is like a 1970s game, like Western game. I get to play. We got to play an epic in Call of Cthulhu, which was awesome. That was so much fun. And then I played Pirate Borg for the first time and Ragnarborg for the first time. So I think that's it. I think those are all the new ones I played this year. Yeah. And then I'm running a game.
There's too many games.
Talk about it. So
too many games. Elena in the chat, who's my partner, asked a question that I would like to answer actually.
Sure.
What is your favorite BBEG you've ever created? I've created a few, I think, memorable BBEGs in my time. I think the one that probably stands out the most for me is there's been so many twisted ones. I really like the one that I did Vampire Lesson, the big Vampire Chronicle that I did, who was this mage, who's called why am I blanking on her name? Detroit. Anyways, Detroit was her family name. I'm just forgetting her first name for whatever reason. I spent a year and a half writing about that character. Now I can't remember her name. But
Custom encyclopedia.
yeah, that character was really, really cool because I got to develop that character so much without ever showing her. Because she was so powerful that I knew there was no way the players could ever confront her. So they were only ever aware of what she was doing and the impact it was having on the city. And I got to do all these other games, like little 1-shots or 2-shots or 3-shots, where we saw that character like 400 years ago and kind of peripheral and kind of what was going on. So I got to really develop the history of that character and the legend of that character without ever having to really bring her in to the game, so that by the time the players started kind of directly interacting with her at the end, like she was this super built up thing, and you know, there was never a thought from anyone of like, we can take this person on. It was always like, you can't, so how are you going to mess with her plans, you know?
Yeah, or can we capture, like it comes down to, it's very similar to the idea of like, can we trap her in a box? Can we do something? Like, we can't just take her on by her.
Yeah, you can, and they're especially like so powerful mages. I don't know if you've ever played mage. Mage is broken, messed up.
Mage is
messed
broken.
Up. Calome, yes, thank you, Elena. It was Calome de Trois. So that was a great one that I really liked, and for the first time, it was one of the first times that I made a character who was truly a bad guy. Like, there was no real redeeming quality to them or anything like that, even though like her story of how she broke at first and kind of turned and eventually became corrupted was kind of a tearjerker at the end. Like, there was nothing about this character that was redeemable or nice, right, or, you know, and it was a very kind of a pretty momentous one. I've done a lot of cool ones in Vaesen also, but Vaesen ends up often being kind of more subtle and strange, and there's never really I don't like BBEG fights at the end. Like a big bad guy fight, that's not for me. I like I rarely build that.
Resolution of a mystery or of a story rather than
it's a lot more about that. Like, even in the cult game that we're doing now, there were some bad guys kind of floating around, but none of them were, there wasn't one big bad guy behind that was responsible for everything. You know, it was kind of like different people kind of all doing things. So
right, yeah.
So that was I got to do that because I'm doing it on stream and I have access to so many different players, and we could do so many different little games. And like, you know, it would be like a random one, like, all right, like the vampire game is set in modern times, but we're going to do one episode with 2 players. We're going to have 3 episodes with 2 players, and it's going to be in 1735. And we're going to show how Montreal started. And in that, they encountered this person. And then in another series that's somewhere else, who realized that the person became this person. And, you know, there's 3 people maybe who followed that.
Yeah, those 3 people were really excited when they realized
Raven, our mod Raven's like my encyclopedia. She knows everything. She knew what was going on. But yeah, and Sam asked me if there's another period in time that I wanted to check in with Cult, and I think Cult is absolutely wonderful for that. And you can set it in almost any period in time, and I am dying to do a medieval or Victorian era Cult game. Yeah, that's where I want to go with that. So
next question, it looks like, is what's your go-to Gothic literature book for your class?
For the class I just taught, or in general, so I always teach. I'll just kind of talk maybe a bit more in general, but I always do a fair amount of Edgar Allan Poe, of course. Fall of the House of Usher is my favorite Edgar Allan Poe story, followed very closely by Mask of the Red Death. So you usually have those. The Raven I love. Durin's a fantastic poem. So those three usually kind of get in there somewhere. This year also I did what did I do this year? I did this really strange one called The Night Cyclist, and it's about this guy who is a chef and he rides his bike at night, and then he notices, and then people have been getting killed kind of like by a vampire, and then he runs into this night cyclist, this cyclist at night, who's, you eventually kind of realize is a vampire, but he's kind of stuck in this. Anyways, it's super brilliant, and it's really weird and twisty, and so that's a good one. I love doing one a funny one. My partner Kato, they just wrote to me about that, but they were reading Sleepy Hollow, and Sleepy Hollow, the first half is fucking boring as all get out. And I get this text today. I'm halfway through the story, and all I got so far is him describing Katrina von Tassel and his father's land or whatever. You gotta
pass that first half, and then it gets good.
You gotta stick with it. You gotta.
It's a slow burn.
Frick, what else did we do? I do because sorry, what?
No, it's Helena puts, why is it just about Katrina being a plump peasant?
Well, because, I mean, is there anything better than a plump peasant? I mean, that's... Am I wrong? Am I wrong here? And I did another circle, the Bake, which is interesting because we just did a cult story called the Bake. That's what I mean, like when you get I did this story, one of the short stories I did this year. It's called the Bake, and it's about the Greek myth of the Bake, but it's set in modern times in this city where the role is inverted, where the women are kind of the top of the food chain, and the men are like, kind of secondary, and there's these groups of women who hunt these men down and kind of tear them apart, which is what the Bake, right, was about. And I read that story, and it was because it's set in contemporary times. It's really kind of chilling, and you read about the myth of the Bake and running around with Dionysus in the fields and blah blah blah, and it's okay, it's fun, it's a myth. But when you read about it set in contemporary times and all that, it's really kind of strange and dark and weird. And when we were doing cult recently, one of Kato's character is a cult leader, and so it was like the last episode was called the Bake because that's where the story led to her kind of using these women that she had controlled to go and kill one of the guys that was like the big bad guy of the thing. So, and I was like, oh, that's totally from that story. Like, it's that same idea of like convincing these women to liberate themselves and to go and hunt down to get into this religious frenzy and fervor. Yeah. And to go and hunt down this guy. So when I say like you make weird connections like that,
No, I like
that's
that.
kind of weird. That's kind of where these stories can take you and kind of suggest ideas and stuff like that from wherever random thing from the left.
Yeah. So we're about done with our interview tonight, which this was a fantastic interview. We learned a lot. I'm going to probably watch this one again and take a bunch of notes next time. But real quick, what's the next thing happening over at Folk and Myth and with Bleakseason in general?
So we're entering May. We're slowing down a little bit in May because I'm going to be traveling. And after that, when we come back, I'm on vacation because I'm a teacher, so I get summers off, which is the best thing about it. The main things we're doing is over on Folk and Myth, we're going to be doing a couple of interesting things. One, we're doing Cyberpunk just because I've wanted to do Cyberpunk for a long time. My friend Craig's super into Cyberpunk, so I wanted to do a Cyberpunk game for a while. So we're going to do a little bit of Cyberpunk. And we're doing, in June, I'm doing, again, using the Vason system. I've wanted to do a True Detective game for a while. So I'm doing True Detective, but set in London in 1888, following the whole Jack the Ripper thing. So I have two players, Little Bones and Sarah, playing these two women detective in London in 1888, and they're going to kind of be, and it's going to be just two detectives, and we're going to follow them like very much True Detective style, where it's going to be like this weird kind of occulty, you don't know too much kind of what's going on. So that's going on. After that, the big thing is something I've been working on is I've been writing this game called Dark Roots of the Earth for a while, which is a game that is set in, it's a post-apocalyptic game. It's set 60 years in the future, but the apocalypse has arrived because the natural world has fought back. The plants have fought back and killed most of the humans in the world, and now there's and then after that kind of all died out, and there's only little areas of the world that there's like these giant trees that grow in and that have started greening again and are starting to grow, and certain humans have been chosen to repopulate. So it's kind of a Garden of Eden, Paradise Lost kind of thing. A groups of humans throughout the world have been chosen to kind of be the guardians of these places. And the whole thing is that in order for these places to grow, the people have to do some fairly atrocious things. So it's very much based on folk, especially British folk stories, stories of natural horror, the occult and things like that. And so we're going to do a series that I'm just finishing writing the world book and the stories now, and it's a thing where like the magic system is very very specific. It's all about doing rituals that take a lot of time, and there's always a cost associated to them. So it's very much a game that's about you have been chosen to be given a second chance and not fucking up what we fucked up before. But you realize that to not fuck up, you have to do terrible things. So what are you going to do? Are you going to do the terrible things? And it's kind of meant to represent the fact that in order for us to save the world right now, we'd have to do things that would horrify us, like stop using oil, and like all those things that were like, well, we can't let these things go. We've gone too far. We're too much into it.
Right.
We keep, we're not willing to do the difficult things. We're not willing to make the hard choices. And that game is meant to kind of represent that. So we're going to do that. I think it's going to be in July. So those are where we'll finish writing it, and then we're going to use the Vaesen system. I'm using not the Vaesen system per se, but I'm adapting the SRD from Free League. I'm using that. They have a magic system in there, so I'm kind of adapting some of that stuff in there because I can't be arsed to create a system. Fuck it, like that system's too good. Why try to reinvent the wheel? So we're going to do that in July.
Awesome.
Over on Pokemon, and tons of other stuff. In October, there's a huge group of streamers who play World of Darkness games that Storytell Steve from Vancouver by Night has been kind of bringing together to do a big month of fundraising. So we're going to do stuff for that, and that's probably where I'm going to do my Beowulf werewolf game.
Nice. Hey, Sam, you need to reach out to that guy because we have season 2 of What I Have the Worm kicking off and around that time too.
Yeah, so. I mean, I'll hook you up. Steve's super cool, and he's looking for more people to kind of get involved. So I'll let you know. That's what we got going on.
Portland by Night, but it's just where there's werewolves involved too. So
I mean, it's RAR by Night.
So. Yeah. Bayo Werewolf is that what's what I'm hearing, right?
Werewolf. I'm not gonna go too much into details of that story, but I've had that story for a while, and we're going to. Mr. Ty wants to play it, but I'm going to need to cast people who know the story kind of as a starter, and then we'll...
The story of Beowulf?
The story of Beowulf, yeah.
It's a good story.
Yeah, I'm going to do a medieval cult too, man. Don't worry, Sam. I'm on it.
Yeah, medieval cult sounds sick. Not going to lie.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. All right, well...
Hey,
we could probably talk for another hour if we wanted to, but I do try to cut these up. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you for being here. This was a great conversation. We had fun. It looks like the audience had fun, which is another plus.
And I didn't even have to take off my shirt. So
you didn't even have to take off your shirt.
I mean, I can.
Last time I said something like this, I'm like, if you throw me 5 subs, then the player does something, and then we blew up like immediately. And I was like, oh, I've got to watch how I say things.
People take that shit seriously,
They do.
Can I use 1 second to? I like to do this. My buddy Dungeon Mr. Ty is in the channel. Ty runs Adventure Slang Productions. He has written and published his own game called New Varden. And if you check out Adventure Slang, is it adventureslang.com or adventureslangproductions.com?
Drop it on the channel, it'll flag it, and then I'll repost it. And
you can get his game. We featured it on our channel. I'm going to put the VOD up soon. He's also been playing it on Guild Superior. It's a great system. He's got his own. He went out of his way and actually created a system for his game that uses only D4s, which is very different, strange, and it's an Earth Punk game, which is like fantasy and strange elements in it, but it's all very, very weird and interesting. And yeah, check that out and check out his game. They're doing great stuff there, and it's always good to encourage the people in our own community who are doing some cool stuff. So.
Absolutely, which is one of the main reasons we built this entire show. It's because we love doing this stuff. So a couple of ways we can help with that is, if you'd like, we do special reports now, which are off the normal scheduled moment, where we literally focus on a single project. We've done things with IDW for Godzilla RPG. We just did something with John Hambone over with a Shadow Dark supplement that he's about to release coming up soon. We've done a couple other ones. We're also building those as one-shots for those that want to run those and play in those, which is really cool. Yeah, so once again, this is Tavern Talks. If this is the first time you've ever seen our show and you're interested, hit that follow button once again. We'll do last call in a second. Jacob, give me a second. I got to run through stuff. Goodness gracious. We got a lot going on this week. Tomorrow night, we are starting our recording for our brand new series that'll be dropping on channel here in a couple weeks. And that is going to be done in the Pendragon RPG, where we're going to dive into the story of what happened after Arthur's death. And I'm super psyched about this one. We have an amazing cast. So keep an eye on the social medias for that. Other than that, we've got next episode of Power Daddies, which is our Power Rangers RPG, kicks off next Sunday. Or no, this Sunday is not that. This Sunday is our roundtable for Candela Obscura, wrapping up season 1. Yeah, so we got a lot going on. Keep an eye on.
Did you just say Pendragon? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we're running Pendragon.
Man, I think one of my first loves was reading Knights of the Round Table, Ivanhoe, those stories. I love the hell out of that. Did you see the Green Knight?
I did. And then they created a TTRPG for it too. Yeah.
Well, the Dark Roots of the Earth, again, I'm doing it's kind of like Green Light in tone. It's kind of got that film, except it's in like a post-apocalyptic thing, and it's tied into the whole Arthur mythos also. So I would love to hear about Pendragon, because I've always been super curious.
Oh, absolutely. Chaosium does a great job. We're bringing in knights from all over Logris, which is going to be all over London and Britain. It's going to be awesome.
I love those stories.
So we're looking forward to it. It's probably going to be between 6 and 8 episodes, but it's mostly a brand new cast. I think the only one that's actually played on our stream yet is Sam, because Dungeon Samster is going to be one of our knights. So keep an eye on
Samster.
Yeah, we're working on that one. And then if you're gonna be at Gen Con, right now we have it got accepted Knights of the Worm, so we'll have our Vampire Werewolf live show on Thursday night. Sam, if you're on the channel, please remind me on that one. Dress to Quest, our cosplay based D&D show, should be showing up Friday if all things go well. And we also have our Pendragon episode or show going up if that gets accepted. So we're hoping for 3. But yeah, thanks again for coming, Bleak.
Thank you for having me. You guys are amazing. Really
Jacob, if you'd like to, this is last call. Over here at Tavern Talk, and we'll see you guys all next week for another wonderful guest here in the tavern. Have a good night. Really quick though, please stick around while we raid some friends.
Absolutely.